for joining us for another rendition of the B&H Virtual Event Space. I am joined today by founder of Hive Lighting himself, John Miller, fellow Brooklynite. What's happening, John?
Hey Scott, how you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Doing great. Doing great, doing great. Thanks for being here. So everybody, John's gonna be talking a little bit about the brand new Hive light that has recently dropped. It's called the Super Hornet 575C, if I'm correct, right, John?
That's correct.
That's it, I got it, nailed it on the head. So if anybody has any questions, whether you're joining us here on Zoom, Facebook, live stream, go ahead and get them in the comments below for Zoom. You can go ahead and enter any of those questions in the Q&A, and we'll be sure to get to them towards the end of this live stream event. John, I don't want to take up any more of your time. I know you got tons to talk about. You love lighting. I'm gonna kind of hide around in the background and maybe learn how to do something besides just turn a light switch on and off.
All right, thanks so much for the intro. Appreciate it. Yeah, so thank you everybody who's joining. Thank you for taking the time. My name is John Edward Miller. I'm the Chief Product Officer here at Hive Lighting and one of the co-founders. If you're not familiar with Hive Lighting, we are a US-based manufacturer of energy-efficient lights for film and television, and our expertise is hard lighting or directional lighting. And our Omnicolor LED line features the ability to change our lighting instruments any color you want with very versatile options for different modifiers. So the light I'm going to be talking about today is our brand new Super Hornet 575C. And I'm going to intro that by going through some details on the specs of the light, and then we'll do a little hands-on where I actually show you how the light works in person over the video. Very briefly, a little intro on myself. Before I was at Hive, I worked in lighting for film, television, and photography. I've been doing it for almost 20 years. So I have some experience in the photo space, I have experience as a cinematographer, and I have experience as everything from PA and up. So love to hear your questions. No question is too technical, no question is too simple, no question is too early or too high level. I want to hear everything, any thoughts you have, love the feedback, so very much appreciate it. And with that, let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen, and what I'm going to show you guys is actually our website. So our website has a lot of different resources, and first thing we're going to do is really go over the product which I'm here to highlight, which is our brand new Super Hornet 575C. So give you a sense of size and scope, 575C is a 500-watt LED, and it is made up of two parts, primarily the head, which is going to be the light emitting part, and the ballast, which is going to give you control and the ability to use it off of different power sources worldwide. The core engine of our 575C is a round, multi-chip, highly dense Omnicolor LED array, which is a mouthful, but a better way to think about this is we have 7 different distinct color LED chips. We use a wide variety to create a full spectrum light. We have everything from red, green, and blue, which is pretty standard, but then we also have a cyan, a lime, an amber, and a royal blue violet, which rounds out the spectrum and creates a really, really high color quality white light and a huge amount of control. So when we combine those LEDs together, what we're basically doing is a prism in reverse. We create our white light by taking all the colors of the rainbow and combining them together. That gives you a really broad white light range. So we can go anywhere from 1800 Kelvin all the way up to 18,000 Kelvin. And then we can create distinct, unique colors in that space. So beyond being able to create billions of different colors, we're really able to fine tune the light that comes out to match all kinds of sources. So what, a lot of lights are going to offer you daylight. A lot of lights are going to offer you sort of tungsten incandescent indoor lighting. But what we can do with our 575C Omnicolor LED is not only give you daylight, but we can give you morning light. We can give you sunset. We can give you light in the afternoon. We can give you light that corresponds with the altitude and latitude that you're located on. We can give you light that matches all kinds of different scenarios that encompass everything we mean when we say daylight. But the big news about the 575C is that it's bright. It is a bright, high output light The reason it's actually called the 575C is because that is the equivalent unit in HMI or metal halide technology. So there's two traditional lighting sources out there in the world. There's the incandescent tungsten, and then there's HMI. HMI is daylight balance. Tungsten is obviously indoor, 3200 Kelvin. We can do both, and this is equivalent to about a 2000 watt incandescent or a 575 watt HMI light. So, as I mentioned, it's relatively small. The head itself only weighs 5 pounds. The ballast is 8 pounds. And beyond just the ability to create a lot of light, it's a very versatile tool. So, we can control it through a variety of different ways. One of them is through that power supply that you see here. The other way is through the app. But beyond that, we have a huge amount of different modifiers that can go on the light. So on our website, we have what we call our Photometric Calculator. This allows you to predict how bright the light is going to be when you use it with both the 575C head as well as an accessory. So we have the super spot reflector here. We're also able to choose from a huge number of different accessories that are light modifiers that allow you to change the light source. So we're really inspired by the way that flash photography allows you to put different modifiers like a softbox, a Fresnel, a Leica profile spot onto the same light head. And so we've done that here at Hive. And as you can see, there's a wide variety of different options that can be attached. And when you attach that different option, you're going to change the beam spread, you're going to change the output, and you're going to change the nature of the light. And it's a really, really modular tool, which gives you a lot of options. Okay. So with that being said, that's a nice sort of overview, but we can look at the light head itself really quickly. So I'm just going to turn it on a little bit. And I'm going to adjust down that saturation. So I turned it on first in red, just so it wasn't too dramatic, but I'll pull that saturation off. This is actually only 10% of the output the light is able to create. But as you can see, it can get quite a bit brighter, but we'll keep it down something a little bit more reasonable so it's a little easier for you to see. This is set to 5600 daylight. As you can see, it's a very nice, high quality light, and it also has a very even spread to it. This spread is really important because it allows us to attach different modifiers to the fixture itself, surrounding the light and shaping where it goes. Again, since it's an LED, it's relatively low heat. For an LED, this is going to be warmer than most, but because of the LED system, it's a relatively low heat, I'm going to be able to touch it with my hands for the entire demo. I'm controlling it right now using the power supply. So power supply is here. Excuse me, it's a little bit hard to make sure it's on camera. Oh, sorry, that's upside down for the display. But as you can see, the power supply gives you very specific options to adjust. Because we're on camera, they're all in reverse, but there's the ability to change the intensity or how bright it is, the ability to change the color temperature, which you can dial in, the ability to change the saturation to add color, and the ability to adjust that saturation via hue wheel. So I'll just put it back down.
Now, John, I know we spoke about this, and I know you said that you're okay with me interrupting you. So I'm going to jump in and I'm going to interrupt you because I love to do that. You know, no. So I did want to ask about the ballast because I noticed that with LED lights lately, you know, everybody seems to be using a ballast as their, you know, power source. Can you kind of explain that for us? You know, why the ballast? What makes that a better, you know, power driving source? And, you know, why not just go with the traditional AC plug?
Yeah, absolutely. So the reason for this is that LEDs are a DC or direct current light source. They do need to convert the alternating current AC power that we get out of our walls at some point to allow the direct current to go into the actual light emitting diodes to produce light. So at some point, you're going to have to convert that AC power into DC power. On smaller LEDs, this is generally handled in two ways. One is the AC-DC converter can be put inside the fixture and be internal, or it's run on a battery, which is also a DC power source, and so you won't see any kind of power supply or ballast that's external. as you go up in wattage, the ability to convert the alternating current to direct current requires a larger and larger piece of equipment. And eventually it becomes better to put that equipment externally rather than building it into the head itself. So we made the choice to make an external power supply. And the reason for that was flexibility on set. There are going to be times when you want the head of the lamp to be as low weight as possible. And to achieve that, we want to give you the option to separate these two items from each other. So that's really what's going on there. But on the end of the ballast, and I'll turn off the light and show you a bit more in a second, you will see that's actually just a standard AC wall plug that you're very used to. And we use genuinely the same cord you would find on many standard printers or computer monitors. Is that an answer to your question, Scott?
Definitely, 100%. Thank you.
Glad. And yeah, keep them coming. No problem interrupting me. Genuinely, people enjoyed the answers to the questions more than what I think is important. But with that being said, I wanted to show a little bit about what it means to have the ability to change the saturation on the light. So I'm going to go from the 0% saturation white light all the way up to 100% saturation. So generally, we think of changing the saturation on the light as a nice way to get sort of saturated colors like a green, a cyan, a blue, something more magenta or purple. And these are great for a lot of different effects, but they're not always what we really need when we're doing things like fine art photography, product shots, or video or film, video interviews, or even narrative work. Usually we don't use that much saturated color outside of, say, music videos, theatrical events, or very specific scenes in our work. So a lot of people think, well, what's saturated color for? Why do I need it? I just need some good white light. What's the deal with this? Well, what I think is probably one of the most powerful tools in this light is the ability to do some basic color correction in the light as opposed to later in post or opposed to later in Photoshop, or if we're doing still images on the computer. Because what we have here is, instead of balancing the camera to all the light that's available, we can actually balance the light to both the camera and the other light that's in the room. So a good example of that is if you look behind me, I've got a glass brick windows. And so between the combination of the plants that are outside and the glass itself, the daylight coming through those windows, it's a little bit green yellow. And so I might actually want to match that, not because it's a good look, but because I know I can then easily remove that green yellow all in once. So to get to that kind of green yellow, I'm going to go to about 100 hue. That's pretty saturated yellow. I'm going to add a little bit more green. Now I'm going to take that saturation all the way off. Okay. And to really see this, instead of looking at the light source itself, I know that's hard, look at what it's doing to the side of my face. Not necessarily a flattering setup. I wouldn't recommend this, but it will be illustrative of my point. So what we can do is we can add 10% saturation at a time. And what you'll start to see is, while this looks pretty white still and pretty bright, on my skin tone, you'll see the shift from a bluer to more of a yellow-green. And eventually, as we go farther and farther, some of that is going to maybe go too far, maybe look a little bit too green and start to give my cast, which already is a little bit pink-green, unfortunately for me, something a little unattractive. But as a small correction, it's an incredibly powerful tool. And that means that you can use this light really to match any source. And that's really exciting, because if you think about what we're doing when we're telling stories, what we're doing when we're taking photographs, we're really trying to tell a story or create an emotion using light. And the best tools we have for that are output, directionality, shape, and color. And all of those are modular on this fixture. You have the ability to always change your output. You have the ability to really dial in a specific color, whether that's for an emotional reaction, for the beauty of the subject, for the location that you're in and the constraints of the production, or even if you're just trying to do it to create sort of a more dramatic effect in kind of a music video type setting. Then you have the ability to change this beam of light, shape it in any way that you want using a wide variety of modifiers, like the ones that I have behind me, like the ones that I showed on the website. And then you have the ability, because it's so modular and lightweight, to place this light wherever you need it, so the directionality tells the story you're going for. So just kind of illustrate this, I'm not superhuman in my strength, but I can dramatically change the feeling of the lighting on myself based on the position I place it in, and the ease of use of a light this small being this bright and powerful. Again, I remind you, this is actually only a 10% output, is really, really an exciting tool for filmmakers, for photographers, and really anyone in the business of image creation. Okay. With that being said, there are a wide variety of ways to control all those settings I just described. So the first one I showed you, which is actually on the power supply itself, there is the ability to adjust the settings on the light just using the local knobs to change the light output. There's also the ability to do it through a phone, the ability to do it through a DMX lighting console. So if you're not familiar with DMX, DMX lighting is a console system that allows you to remotely change lights, and it's a universal language across many, many different film and theatrical lighting fixtures. It's possible to use it with this light. There's also another version of DMX called wireless DMX. This allows you to, as the name sounds, do the exact same controls you would do with DMX, but wirelessly. That's also built into this fixture. So this fixture has, again, just to repeat it, local controls, wireless DMX controls, wired DMX controls, and then Bluetooth controls. The Bluetooth controls are done through an app. And this app allows you to make all the adjustments I was describing. Relatively simple. So as you can see, you can turn on the light using the app. And then you can adjust the saturation through sliders. You can do corrections like I was describing, tint corrections as well. And this app is free, and it's available through for both iOS and Android. It's available to download onto your own phone. You can use it on a tablet. We are going to be coming out with the desktop version as well. So as long as you have a Bluetooth enabled device, you're able to control this light really effectively. One of the things I really love on the app is actually our preset sources. So one of the things that's really nice is in our preset sources, we've gone through and we've thought of as many of the useful settings we could create on this light. And when I say settings, I mean things like sunrise. So as you can see, this is much warmer and richer than the sunlight you would get midday, which we have here in sort of a direct sunlight. We also have more overcast sunlight. You can see that the light turned bluer. We also have things like moonlight, firelight, candlelight, a lot of different sources. And one of the features we have is actually the ability to search through the sources by color swatch. It's a little hard to see with my finger over it, but you can see we have literally over 100 sources preset. And these range from artificial light sources like street lamps. Street lamps are one of my favorite examples because we think we all know what a street lamp looks like. But if you think about it, in the last 150 years of street lamps, we've had gas lamps, we've had tungsten incandescent lamps, we've had what are called high pressure sodium lamps, which a lot of you are probably familiar with as the older yellow, very yellow lamps. We also have had mercury vapor lamps, that's our green parking lot lighting. We've even had fluorescents. And now we have a whole new range of LED street lamps. And we have all of those street lamps already built into this app for you. So whether you're creating a futuristic look or you're trying to do a period piece, you have that literally at the touch of a finger. So we can go into some of those. So some of the ones I just mentioned were things like a high pressure street lamp, sodium lamp, or something like a gas light. And a lot of these changes are subtle, at least when you're looking at the light source itself. But when used on a set, when used in your photography work, it really can be a powerful tool to change the look, to change the feel. And it's a very fast tool that allows you to audition a wide variety of different looks on the fly.
So while we're talking about, like changing light and seeing, the variations and everything like that. Now, obviously you have it just open faced, just so everybody can kind of see, what it looks like and see the actual changes happening. And this is an easy layup question for you. So that's the good news. Don't get nervous. But no, I know that Hive does, provide modifiers and things like that. But Roland's asking, he's joining us on Zoom and said, he loves that the LED series is growing and getting brighter. But is it going to be too hot to use for an extended period of time in something like a softbox? He's coming from the photo world, so he's got a lot of strobe modifiers. What's kind of going on over there?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, Roland. Appreciate it. Because of the heat of the LED, while this is a very bright LED, it still remains cool enough to be used with your strobe modifiers. So one of the key things about this light is actually it takes a standard Pro Photo mount, which can also be easily adapted to a Bowens mount. So while Hive provides a large number of modifiers, there's actually a lot of third-party modifiers that work as well. So beyond things like Bowens mount or Pro Photo mount, we work with Chimera, we work with Elechrome, we work with different modifiers from like Aperture, Godox, some of the brands that, almost all the brands that B&H carries for modifiers can be used with the right mount with our light. And so it's a really great reuse of some of the photo modifying equipment you already have. And I use modifiers as a catch-all for reflectors, lenses, and softboxes. So when I'm saying modifiers, all of those are possible to use with this. So things that you might not have used in a long time, like an old beauty dish, like a hard beauty dish, maybe something that you use more with your strobe work, but you had to retire when you went more into LED panels, you can bring that back out and get that unique beauty look, but using LED with all the adjustability that I was just demonstrating. So yeah, one of the key features of this light actually is the ability to use third-party modifiers with that Pro Photo mount. Those modifiers can come from either hot lights or from the flash strobe world.
Awesome. And so just to kind of clarify on that, because Pro Photo does have two mounts. Is it the RFI mount, the older RFI stuff, or is it the newer OCF?
So both will work.
Both. Okay.
It is the same actual diameter, so you can use both. The functionality of both will be a little bit different. So when you're looking at a softbox option, both the OCF and the RFI will work no problem. And there's very little practical difference other than the OCF is going to be shorter. When you're looking at it when it comes to hard reflectors, again, both will work, but the placement of the exact orientation of the modifier is going to be a little bit different depending on whether it's an OCF or an RFI to make sure that you get the light source at the right place, but both are completely compatible.
Great. So you definitely put a little bit of thought into that, huh?
We try our best. I mean, we're big strobe fans and we're big Pro Photo fans. We have a good relationship with the company, and we're a big fan of a lot of the modifier manufacturers. And that's really what's important to us, was to allow our users to use the wonderful epic ecosystem of strobe photography modifiers that have evolved over the last 75 to 100 years. Rather than reinvent the wheel, or rather than ask you to buy more new stuff than you had to, we wanted to make it as compatible as possible. And that is actually why we went with the Pro Photo mount, because it did allow for adaptation to a slightly wider variety of modifiers from a slightly broader group of manufacturers.
Cool. Thanks, John.
No problem at all, yeah. And so last thing I want to show on the app, and again, this is a free app. There's also a demo mode, so I actually do recommend, if you want to, feel free to go, whether you have a Hive light or not, download the app, play around with it. There's a demo mode, so you can see all the different effects. You can navigate through it and really see kind of what you might want to do with it. But really quickly, one of the things that everyone always likes is effects. So we do have motion effects. So we can change the speed and the tenor of those effects. And it's a little harder to see, but now I got it going a little bit better. This is actually a fire effect. So you can see it on my face flickering, like I'm kind of standing next to a fire. Always a popular effect. One of the other ones that everyone enjoys is going to be our police car effect. So if you need to create that kind of effect on set, you can also adjust which sources are in there. So you can make it a different emergency, you can change the light and make it an emergency vehicle backing up rather than a more traditional cop car kind of look, etc., stuff like that. So with that being said, that's kind of a quick summary of the control systems. So what I want to do quickly also is show you how to, some of the mechanical features of the light. So to do that, I'm going to turn it off first. Always a good idea before you unplug or plug in the light, make sure it's off. And with the light off, I want to go over just a couple of features. So the first feature, and this is actually one of the more powerful tools as well, although it's somewhat unassuming, is actually the adjustable yoke. So the reason we have this yoke, which may look a little bit unique as a way to mount to standard TVMP 16mm 5/8 baby pin. It's got a lot of names, but it's going to be your standard mount on most tripods or stands you would have for traditional photo gear or lighting gear. This unique yoke allows for two different levels of adjustment. So you're going to be able to tilt, obviously, and pan. Very standard to have that ability. But we also have the ability to change the center of gravity of the light. And the reason we have this ability to change the center of gravity of light is because we have so many different modifiers that you can put on this light. Some of them are going to be much larger than others, and some of them are going to be smaller. And changing that center of gravity is going to allow you to have much more secure and balanced positioning of the light itself. Also, if needed, you can take the light entirely out of the yoke and put it into one of our other modifiers that will mount to a stand, or you can take it out and rig it depending on your needs and your specific set. So again, this is really about the modularity. We really emphasize here at Hive that everything we do with our fixtures be as versatile as possible and that you can have as many different use cases. We really believe in turning our lights into sort of the Leatherman Swiss Army knife of your set. So when you think about what you bring a Hive light to set for, it's you bring it for any situation, and it's always something that can be useful. Okay, so let's take a look at the front of the light itself. Front of the light, you're going to have a dome diffuser. This dome diffuser functions really like a light bulb. This is going to be the source. Underneath that is the round array with all of those different diodes. The final stage of blending, so that you're not going to see any color fringing, so that you're going to have a really nice color quality, is done by this dome diffuser. And what it's for is something called near field blending. Near field blending is a fancy way of saying, no matter how close or far away I am from the light, the color will be consistent and even. What you will see with certain multi-chip LED arrays, these are often theatrical lights, is that if you get too close to them, you're going to start seeing all of the diodes. You're going to see the red, individual from the green, individual from the blue, individual from the rest of the colors. Because we have such a high density array, all the LEDs are packed in really tightly, and we use this dome diffuser, we're able to say, if you put your hand this close or you put your hand 100 meters away, the blending will be consistent. And that's a really good, powerful tool that allows you to take this light and bring it wherever you need to get the look that you want. It also allows us to pair it with a huge number of modifiers. And that's done either through mounting to the actual diameter of the light. You can see that actually over my shoulder, but mounting to the diameter of the light with that ProPhoto clamp, whether it's RFI or OCF, or mounting into this bayonet mount. So we have a 3-point bayonet mount and then locking grooves. This 3-point bayonet mount allows for a lot of specific, unique Hive modifiers to be attached to the light. And I actually have one behind me. See if I can do this smoothly on camera. All right. And so what you'll see is a keyed pattern on the back of the light. On the back of the reflector. This keyed pattern on the back of the reflector allows you to mount this to the fixture smoothly, is what I'll say before I put it on. Hopefully, I'm right. Okay, that went well. I'm pretty pleased with myself. So, this allows you to mount a really powerful, bright reflector. So, really quickly, I'm going to turn the light back on. I'm going to point it just over my shoulder, because now that it's going to have this focusing reflector on, I'll show you the difference that makes when you have it at 10%. So let me just flip the switch on the power supply. And we're going to have light coming out of this in a second. All right, so let me just make the color temperature right. And here we go. So as you can see, this is now a really tight beam, powerful projector, as opposed to that even 180-degree beam field we had before. And so it's bright. Okay, turn that off again. And remove the reflector. you release the lock on the top, twist, pull off, and we're back. Okay, so now that we're actually looking at the back of the light, this gives us another opportunity. This is the connection for the header cable. So this kind of gets back to that earlier question Scott had about the power supply. So our power supply isn't just the conversion of AC power to DC power, it also is the brains of the light. And so we have a pretty significant header cable. And the header cable allows for the communication, controls, and power to run into the back of the light. And just to, I see a question from Mark on the live stream. Thank you, Mark. The physical size of the 575C is in keeping with all of the rest of our fixtures, which has the exact same diameter. This is a 100mm diameter that allows for ProPhoto mount. It also means that our 100C, we have a full product line that starts at 25. We have a 100C, 200C, 50C, and then obviously the biggest are 575. They can all share a vast majority of their modifiers and a vast majority of their accessories because they use the exact same yoke system, the exact same diameter fixture, and then what changes is the length. So the 575C is the longest, and in terms of the weight, it is the heaviest, but the head weight is only 5 pounds. So thank you very much, Mark, for that question. So really quickly on the connector on the back, it is a screw connector with a notched pattern. We're gonna see if I can do this backwards and on camera, but okay, that went pretty well. So you can see it's a multi-pin connector. This multi-pin connector allows for a very secure connection. Once you have that unconnected, again, lightweight fixture, easily packed up, easily carried, easily set up. Okay. So the next key feature of this is going to be the power supply. So I'm just going to reconnect this quickly, and then I will bring the power supply on the screen. Okay. All right, so the power supply is about 1 pound or 2 heavier than the actual light, but not much larger, just rectangular. There are 2 ways to set up the power supply. As you can see, there are feet here on one side, so it can be set up vertical or horizontal. And then feet on the bottom side here. There's also mounting holes here that allow you to put different grip equipment to allow you to rig it to both stands or into grid. And then we have handles here that can both be rigged to and are easy to grab or hold onto as well. On the face, we have 2 different selection knobs and then 2 different buttons. They can both be pushed, and then obviously you can adjust different settings or select with the different knobs. Finally, we have the sort of business end of this power supply. So obviously this is the other end of the header cable. The standard header cable length is 15 feet. We also sell an additional longer cable that is 30 feet. There are inputs here for both DMX in and out that allows you to daisy chain the DMX fixture to other DMX fixtures. Again, DMX refers to the DMX console language that allows for remote control of the light. If you're not very familiar with that, that may not be something you use on set. If you are familiar with it, this is going to work exactly like the rest of the DMX fixtures you're used to. It does have the ability to be addressed on the fixture itself and controlled through most standard DMX boards, and it has profiles in a wide variety of them. What you'll see below here are the different antennas. The antennas are primarily for Bluetooth communication and then also for wireless DMX communication. The Bluetooth communication is with the app. The wireless DMX communication is for a wireless DMX system that allows you to not have to plug in to these DMX ports. A little hard to see because I still have the header cable in. There is also a 3-pin XLR port. This is for 48-volt regulated batteries. This system does not have to be plugged into the wall. It can be run directly off battery. You do, however, need a big enough battery. So you're going to need more than a 500 watt-hour battery, and it's going to have to be able to produce 48 regulated volts. There are about a half dozen different options on the market for that. They come from a few different manufacturers and they are available over B&H. We do not produce the batteries. We do, however, work with a few, and we have recommendations on our website if you're looking for which batteries to use. Finally, here we have the AC power cord in. This is a pretty standard, familiar to many people plug. It's going to be something that you see on your monitors, something you see on your printers. The reason we've chosen this plug is that while it always ends this way, you can use a different socket, different plug on the other, AC plug on the other end, to go into any socket worldwide. So that means if you're in the UK, if you're in Europe, if you're in Asia, where you're going to have a different wall socket and different wall voltage, that's still possible to be used on our power supply. This is a power supply that will run anywhere from 90 to 277 volts. So that means you're going to be able to use it just about anywhere in the world, North America, South America, Europe, etc. So plug that back in. The on off switch is directly above there. You'll see it has a green illuminated light. When it's clicked on, it will show you that. And it also does have a breaker in here as well. So if you do have a power surge, it is something that you can actually change the fuse out on the actual power supply before it affects any of the rest of the fixture. Then this is a little bit more specific for people who are going to be working in probably a studio setting where they're going to be using multiple fixtures. You do have the ability to daisy chain power through these connectors. These are PowerCon connectors that take AC power. And you're able to daisy chain through these connectors so that you can have AC power in and then AC power out. So instead of having to run multiple power cords to each fixture, you can actually run a single power cord within the limitations of electrical safety to one fixture and then go from this fixture to the next, to the next, to the next. Obviously, you're keeping an eye on what the actual amperage you're building up is based on the breaker circuit that you're plugged into. So it doesn't defy electrical standards, but it does make for much easier rigging on set. Okay, so that's a basic breakdown of the power supply physically. Okay, well, with that in mind, that is most of what I wanted to cover. So generally what I do at this point is if there's any questions, I usually answer them. Scott told me that if there's no questions asked by anyone, he was going to have a question. So in worst case scenario, Scott, what's your question for me?
You know, you already know that I have a question for you because I want to talk about the thing nobody ever wants to talk about and nobody ever wants to address. So let's go there and let's just hit the nail right on the head and put John on the spot. Okay. So let's shift out of photo mode for a second and let's go into video mode, okay? And so the $1 million question that everybody always wants to know when it comes to LEDs, and I know because I've been in the store, I've done my stint in the store, I've hung out with the guys in the lighting department over there, and they all want to know. Everyone wants to know what's up with the fan. Is it an audible fan? Can you turn the fan off?
Oh yeah.
You know, how does that work?
Great question. Great question. Okay. So there is a fan. Because of the size of the heat sink, there's actually two different fans. So there's a 100% whisper quiet, can't be heard even by the ear fan in our power supply. That fan, not only does you have the ability to remote it to wherever you want because it's on the power supply, but also it's completely silent. That fan, you don't need to worry about it. There is a fan in the fixture itself. I've got air conditioning going right now because I'm in Los Angeles. So you're not going to be able to, even if I was trying to make it audible for you, you couldn't hear it. But also it is going to be below 15 dBA. It's perfectly good for set work, very, very, very low sound. And we actually have some options built in. So one of the features that we are going to be offering with this is going to be the ability to adjust the fan. However, we're really looking to adjust the fan to allow for an overdrive, and that allows no concern up to 35°C or 95 degrees Fahrenheit. It can then continue to work to 45 degrees Fahrenheit. Having said that, once you get above that 110 degrees Fahrenheit, there are elements that affect it. So if it's in direct sunlight, it will actually be physically hotter. So what we generally recommend is as soon as you get over that 95 degrees, thinking about and you have to start thinking about it in that context. One of the things we point, you're outside in an uncontrolled space, and the sound of the fan is going to be the least of your concerns.
Awesome. Awesome. Fair answer. I appreciate it. It was a good answer. So I knew you would be prepared for it, but I had to ask it anyway. I had to ask it.
They're not, yeah, these are actively cooled lights. Manufacturers at this point really do active cooling, is because one of the things that doesn't seem obvious is that even though LEDs are cool, the actual LED diode themselves has to be cooled, or the lifespans that everyone's promising for the LED aren't going to be sustained. So they will burn themselves out over. However, the incandescent bulb doesn't get destroyed by the heat. The LEDs will relatively rapidly and lose color quality. So cooling is very important to us. And you can actually see, if you kind of look down the barrel here, that those fins are for a pretty robust heat sink, which is really doing a lot of the work of pulling that 500 watts of LED energy out of the array and cooling it with the fan while projecting instead just the light energy.
Awesome, awesome. So Mike is joining us from live stream. Mike, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. He wants to know, what is the max length of the head cable extension?
Exactly, yeah. So the length of the head cable standard is 15 feet. And so actually it's 1.5 and 3 meters, but it's roughly 15 feet. And then the standard extension is we are looking at that, but one of the issues there is actually the communication over the wire is essential. And so as you start to gang connectors together, the communication can break down even if the power can go through. And so that's why right now we don't offer that connector. That's why that connector isn't available yet. But right now it is 15 feet, and our 15 or 30, and our expectation, is that we'll be able to reach 60 feet relatively soon.
Awesome, cool. And you know, for anybody who's watching and sees that super cool shirt, we talked about it before. And you know, I said I would plug it, and I said, you know, we definitely got to let people know where can they find that super cool Super Hornet shirt.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would encourage everybody who's interested in this product to check out our website. On our website, we've got a bunch of stuff. One of the cool things, though, is we have a merch store. So you can buy T-shirts, sweatshirts. We're going to keep adding things. We actually just, by special request, added a onesie. So
awesome.
Need a special gift. Nothing says, you know, future gaffer to the stars like a Hive onesie. And we're also on our website, and this is something that goes back to kind of what I was showing when I was sharing my screen. Our Photometrics Calculator is on there. It allows you to choose the fixture and the modifier to get a real sense of how bright or what beam you're going to get when you combine it. And while we don't have every modifier in the world, we do have most of the ones that Hive sells. The other thing that's a really useful tool on our website like that is basically the description of the 575. But something that I want to plug as well is we are running a demo. So it's great to see me do this demo, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to have you guys watching and the time you've taken. But we do understand that it's always great to get your hands on the fixture itself. And so because of that, for B&H customers, directly, but we do provide demo gear so you can try out that light. You can request it. And what I will say is the demo request form is on the website. Give us usually about 48 hours plus to get back to you. And then also give us a few weeks to schedule the demo, because we do have demo inventory. However, it is limited. And depending on your geographic location, we've got to factor in shipping and other people's demo requests. But if you're looking to try a 200CX, whatever the gear is that you're looking to try out, even if it's just one of our models, don't hesitate to reach out and again, we'll work more. And when you've had a chance to play with it, obviously, return to B&H.
Awesome, awesome. And I mean, just to, plug B&H, because I don't think that's necessarily my job, but it's definitely in there. I definitely work here. I want to stay here. I like working for B&H, but I do know that Hive does have some of the products on display in the store. I don't know about the 575C. That might be too new to have in the store yet, but I do know that we have some of the other stuff.
Oh, sorry, Scott. I think I'm glitching a little bit. But,
I think you're a little glitchy. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the future. I think we're used to it all by now, right? So, yeah. To get to that, we do have product in the store at the B&H Superstore in Manhattan. We don't yet have the 575C. However, there are going to be a few different fixtures there, including our 200, some of our smaller fixtures. I believe there's a 50 as well. So, a great place to check out the light in person. Right now, if you are in the New York City tri-state area, head into the Superstore. It is in the showroom floor.
Definitely awesome. Well, I want to thank you, John, for spending a little bit of your time with us. I know it's valuable, and I know that you're a busy guy. As much as I love getting together with you and just going back and forth and shooting insults at each other, it's been absolutely amazing and a great time as always. I always enjoy your company. So, John, really thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure. Thank you, everyone who took the time to watch. Really appreciate it.
Definitely. To everybody else tuning in, we want to thank you as well for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you back here for another rendition of the B&H virtual event space. Until then, have a great night, everybody.